Hello everyone, Gary Waterman here, a former police officer, a recent Christian and a victim in relation to this system of fraud. This is the fourth part of the video showing research in relation to the World Trade Center disaster and how it links through to this fraud. Just to summarise, for those of you that haven't watched the other videos, I suggest you do, and I also suggest that you corroborate this information that I'm showing you. You need to be sure that what I'm showing you is true, so you can go onto the Companies House registration system and check these companies yourself. Follow all the links through and you'll see everything I'm showing you is correct. If you contact me, you can also receive these documents. You can email me at Gary with one R, the truth sets us free. So that's the truth sets us free at gmail.com. You can also contact me via my wife's account on TikTok which is at lisa.waterman, and I will send you these documents for free, no charge, and you will have these documents. And it's very important to say these are evidential documents, screenshots taken from the Companies House registration system, and also the incorporation documents attached to that register. This is moving mountains. Okay, there was recently, 2 days ago, an article came out that suggests now the banks are on high alert to say that somebody has infiltrated the Companies House registration system and has hacked it and is putting these documents onto the registration system themselves. So they're trying to avoid accountability for this. The evidence I've got shows that is very unlikely. Where you can see it's not going to be the case. And all they're doing is they're digging a deeper and deeper hole. The only way out of this is to state the truth. The people can deal with the truth as a foundation, providing they do the right things, which will have to be anyone involved steps down from politics. Okay, voluntarily just step down. It's already starting to happen. Okay, we need innocent people to come in and change the system. Verification of all company registrations is now essential. Okay, and we also need to have a transparent taxation system so that members of the public can see how the tax is being spent at the source of payment, so through the accounts. That can be done, the technology is there. We also need to have strict legislation imposed on the politicians to ensure they cannot make any decisions based on their own financial or affiliated financial interests in any way. It needs to be about the general public and, importantly, the environment. Anyway, watch my other videos. It'll all sort of hopefully make sense. So we're just going to go on. We're looking at Silverstein. I think it was Larry Silverstein who purchased the lease for the World Trade Center in July 2001. It's the first time it had ever happened in the whole 31 history of the World Trade Center complex. And he purchased it in July 2001, and then the collapse happened. Okay, by chance, if you look at the research I've done, he said that he was by chance not in the building at the time. However, he normally has breakfast every day in there. Lots of other evidence. Look at my other videos. Ties in with all these companies. So here we are. Look at the first, straight away. Look at the date of this. This company is dissolving in November 2023, even though it's been incorporated in 1979. I reported the fraud publicly and to all organisations in September 2022. Now, that may be coincidence. It could be that they're worried and they're shutting down these companies. You can see that Hart & Co is linked through the incorporation documents. So these are all documents you can go and look at. This here on the left is a search of the Companies House registration system. So I've typed in the top. You can't quite see it on this screenshot, and this brings up the results. And that leads through to Hart & Co Boats Limited. Okay, incorporated in 1953. These are incorporation documents on the right. You can normally find those on the filing history within Companies House. Now they're starting to hide these. There's one company, Dutch bank linked company, recently opened. They are literally restricting all information now since this fraud has been reported. It's a new company. It's linked to Vistra UK Limited, which is heavily linked to this fraud. They're not showing any information now because of what I suspect it's because of what I'm doing. But they should be, because Companies House are supposed to share public information about companies, but they're now so worried they're stopping it. So here we go. We've got FS More Limited is linked through to it. And this is a prime example of a element of the fraud, and this is the main obvious irrefutable evidence. So we've got FS Moore Limited there on the right, their registration pages, but then when you go into the incorporation document, it's completely different incorporation name. Okay, and that hasn't been registered, and a company has to be registered with Companies House for them to be able to trade. So that company has been allowed to trade unlawfully. That means they avoid accountability for any illegitimate activity, tax evasion, money laundering, fraud. It's very difficult to actually prosecute for criminal or civil issues a company if false details or false addresses aren't used. Looking at the document here, you can see we've got Stephen Mabbott Limited. So you can follow the chain of evidence through the documents. And we're now looking at Stephen Mabbott Limited. This is a prime example of a duplicate record being created. So within that company, we've got Stephen Mabbott here with 2,449 either current or previous companies attached. Date of birth, November 1950. You go into the company right next to it, you've got another Stephen George Mabbott, same date of birth, 9,275 companies. Now, if I was able to establish that within a very short space of time, Companies House would, of course, known that. All right. So this is an element, and that would be to, I suspect, to hide companies linked to the fraud through these Companies House records. You can see this isn't, and this is all linked to politicians. Remember, it's linked through to police organisations, solicitors firms, you name it, right the way through society. This system has been going on. So this isn't somebody that's hacked the system. Okay, this is Companies House involved in this. They need to own up to it. We're now moving on to the other aeroplanes that were used supposedly, if they were used. Okay, in the attack. This is the airline company, United Airlines. Let's look at this company now. So this is how it should be registered. Okay, if they've been registered properly, you'll have, if they've got a previous name, you'll have those listed further down on the first page. Okay, if they haven't got any listed, then this should be the original incorporation name. That's what they're registered as. But either way, the incorporation document should match this or the first or oldest name on the bottom of the register. Of course, Companies House would know this. Of course, solicitors would know this. And they're obviously, a lot of big companies will use solicitors or financial advisors. They'll all know this. Okay, so there's no excuse for this whatsoever. So we're looking at the incorporation document here. So you can see that that is correct. Continental Airlines matches, although there is one discrepancy. It has to be exact as well, remember, because these are legal documents. Okay, and they will know that. And you do have an issue, albeit it's a very minor one, but you've got a comma there, okay, which does make the difference. And there's no comma on the registration. You can see that. Now, if I can see that, Companies House would have known that. So we've got Lovell White King on the incorporation document. And we'll come to those a bit later. Now, this shows a person linked to the company. I'm not saying these individuals are involved in any fraud. If they're real people, they might not even be real people, because remember, false details can be used. United Airlines links through to this person, and they link through to JP Morgan Chase. Now, this is where things get crucial. Okay, we're now talking about banks. So we're now getting into really serious stuff. JP Morgan's a massive bank, as you know. Follow my other videos. There's loads of links through to them. Okay, we've got an incorporation document here so it should be JP Morgan Chase Bank National Association. I can't remember if this one matches. Some of them do. No. There we go. That's I don't think it's, yeah, that's a false unregistered document. Now you can see the implications of all of this, but they should have thought about this, shouldn't they? At the end of the day, if we have to reset to a integral system of morals, values, truth, then that's what we need to do. We cannot have a government involved in crime against the public, which is what this is appearing to be. JP Morgan Securities links through, PLC. They were incorporated in 1992. And they had an original incorporation name of Trust Shelf Go. Can you see that? April till June 1992, and then they changed their name. And they're linked through to Slaughter and May. Again, they've got one of their companies is unregistered incorporation document. And they're one of the biggest solicitors firms in the world. They would know that. Now we're linked to JP Morgan Secretaries UK Limited. Thank you very much for everyone that's contacted me. By the way, this information is now out in the public. No matter what they do to me, this information is within the public domain. It's public. They're public documents. There's nothing wrong with me doing this. Okay, so this is why this is making movements, causing movements. Now this is essential. So remember, we've got JP Morgan. Now here we go on why this is not evidence of hacking, or it assists to suggest that. These are the previous incorporation names for those companies, for that company, sorry. And you can see the original incorporation name was R. Fleming Limited. Now they changed their name in November 2001. World Trade Center disaster, 2 months prior to that. So they've changed their name in 2001. They have not changed it since. And that, as you can see, is an active company at the time of this document. Now, this is very, very important because the shareholder within my block of flats, the company where I've obtained false, forged bank documents that appear to be produced by the banks themselves, has a surname of Fleming. Okay? That person is linked to a former police officer from Dorset, who is Scottish, and who was fed information via this report by Dorset Police. Okay, so by people within Dorset Police. I have evidence of that in an email. Okay, and also have information to suggest that the officer, the Deputy Chief Constable overseeing that department, was linked, or to suggest that they were linked through to a shareholder within my block of flats, linked to my company, who had appeared to have paid no service charge contributions into the building at all. In fact, I worked out that in total, several people appeared not to have paid over £167,000 into the service charge of that building since 2015. Now that meant, of course, I and anyone else that was paying legitimately, thinking that everyone else was, because that's what we're all being led to believe, that everyone was contributing, we would have had to pay more to contribute to the building. Okay, now I was removed as a director because for my company I was refusing to use those forged bank documents. They clearly forged to file our accounts. They removed me. Okay, the shareholders removed me in a vote and employed the person with the surname of Fleming as a director. Now that person was a former NHS chief executive in charge of a £700 million budget. This is what information shows, and in charge of 10,000 staff. And they removed me as a director, and then they filed the accounts for the company seemingly with the false forged bank documents. Those shareholders were also friends with an accountant that appeared to be using those forged bank documents for years. Okay, and you'll know from the other videos, the management company was, again, this is all documented, the management company resigned when I wanted to look at the authentic bank documents. The director who was in charge of the building, acting chair, resigned. 2 other directors resigned, and eventually they removed me because they knew where this was heading. So the reason I'm showing this is because there, you can see on the incorporation document that there are loads of companies linked through to it. So this now means there's a financial incentive with anyone linked to these companies. You see loads of Fleming companies in there. Okay, Dundee, Nominee, Scotland. Okay, loads and loads of Fleming's companies. Okay, so now this is research in relation to Robert Fleming and Co. And the reason I've done that is because, sorry, I forgot, it's me chatting away and I'm forgetting to show you bits. So on the incorporation document, you can see Robert Fleming and Co. dot limited. Notice the dot. This is how important it is on legal documents. And very fortunately, that is what is on here. Okay, so it was an asset manager, a merchant bank founded in Dundee in Scotland in 1873. In 1909, the firm moved its headquarters to London, England. It was sold to Chase Manhattan Bank for over $7 billion in 2000. Okay, now we had loads of name changes, you'll see from the other videos, in 2000. Research then suggests that in April 2000, Robert Fleming's holdings was sold to Chase Manhattan Bank for $7.7 billion. Now, I suggest you read all of this, but I'm just highlighting bits. And this is important. On the right there, you'll see in the sale, about 130 Fleming family members pocketed approximately $2.3 billion for 30% of the stake when Chase merged with JP Morgan & Co. in 2001, the same year as the World Trade Center disaster. Okay, now you know from other research that I've shown you, after the World Trade Center disaster is when the USA obtained access to the SWIFT international transaction system used by most banks. That is linked heavily to the fraud. So here we're just doing search on Robert Fleming and Co. Okay, dot limited, which was on there, and it brings up this company, CAPB Limited. Okay, and that's because it had a previous company name there, Robert Fleming and Co. Limited. Now, I won't read through all this. You can research this slowly. It mentions the SWIFT International Transaction System, and this mentions all the evidence that's coming up on the next few pages. Okay, so this is really important. Have a read of this, pause it, go back over it. You can verify, I suggest you verify, corroborate all of this. Let's look at CAPB Limited. Now, this is incredibly interesting and serious. We've got an address of Tavistock House, okay, Tavistock Square. That features throughout. You'll see that. Now, importantly, this company had a previous name. Oh, sorry, the thing shifted up a little bit here. Can't quite see it there, but it was incorporated in July 2001. Silverstein purchased the lease of the World Trade Center disaster, World Trade Center in July 2001. Okay. They then, they were incorporated. Oh, I'm not saying this very well. They were incorporated in 1932. Sorry, and they changed their company name in July 2001, the very same time that Silverstein purchased the World Trade Center lease. Okay, they changed their name to CA Premier Banking Limited. Now, CA stands for Cater Allen. You'll see in a minute, which is linked to Santander and Abbey National, and it's an offshore bank system or bank account. Bank company. Okay, so you can see July they took the Fleming name out of this company and changed it to something else. So it should have an incorporation document of Robert Fleming at, which is what I'm just showing you, and it does. Okay, so you can see that is correct, and you can see it's linked to the Solicitors Law Stationery Society. So if we move through now, we're looking at CAPB Limited. You can see that Santander is linked to it. You can see where they've changed their names here. And they are linked to Swift Incorporations Limited. Okay, that company has not been registered correctly. The secretaries and account directors have not been registered correctly. And they're also linked through on the left here. You'll see Jordan's Limited, that has a unregistered incorporation document, which means they shouldn't be trading, because any company, because it's a legal document, any company that uses those company names within their incorporation document means they also become unlawful as well. So they've got 141 Santander Secretariat services, have 141 either previous or current companies linked to them. You see all these big company names all linked through now. That unfortunately means, this is how big this is, all of these companies and many more, I haven't shown all of them, are not lawfully trading. You can see how huge this is. So Cater Allen, here we go, links through to Cater Allen Lloyd's. Remember, I obtained false, forged Lloyd's bank documents. That company is in liquidation. You can see they originally had a name there of Cater Allen and Lloyd's, at Lloyd's, sorry. What have they done? My goodness me. I suspect there's a lot of souls at stake in this. They can change this, and then you can see all of these companies now linked to it, loads of other. And this is what they're doing. Remember, Companies House are not supposed to have two companies with the same or similar names according to their guidelines, but here we are. All they've done is changed the digit. Look how similar they are. They've just changed the number, and all these companies have been allowed to operate. It's unreal, isn't it? Isn't this unreal? My goodness me. And there's churches linked to this. There's no way, certainly my faith would agree with corruption on this scale. And we've got these companies on the incorporation, they feature throughout. And there's links, remember, to Max Clifford, Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, all the way through. You'll see that later. I'm going to show you that. So we're now still looking at Santander Secretariat. Again, Alliance and Leicester. Oh dear, oh dear. All of these companies, unfortunately, are not incorporated lawfully because they've used Santander Secretariat. Now we've just got a Time Retail Finance Limited that's going into liquidation. You can see it's got the same address there as CAPD Limited, see on the left. It's got Legibus linked to it. That links to research surrounding Max Clifford. Dear, oh dear, sorry. Just quite gobsmacked by the whole thing. Cater Allen International Limited. Okay, this is the offshore account system or bank, so we're now going to look at the research around that. Cater Allen is a private bank operating in the United Kingdom and is a subsidiary of Santander. History goes back to 1816. It was independent for 180 years before being purchased in 1997 by Abbey National. Cater Allen Offshore was initially run as a separate enterprise with Abbey, but in 2001, remember 2001, it was merged with Abbey National Offshore. Okay, Cater Allen has significantly expanded twice in the past 20 years. Once was in 1994 and then in 2001 after the acquisition of Fleming Premier Banking from JP Morgan Chase. Cater Allen, you can see all these links now to Santander Secretariat. Actually, is that better if I do it? So that's better, isn't it? Now you can see we're now back through to research on CAPB Limited. Links to this person. Okay, so basically CAP Limited, you can tell we're in that record here. Now we go into, we can see that name's attached. We go into their name, that's now at the top. And this is looking at their records. They've got 192 companies linked to them. We're now looking at this person within the record of CAPB. And we're now going to look at the incorporation document for this company here, I believe. We're looking at Hooley Research Limited. Incorporated in November 1999, and then this person was appointed to them in 1999 and then resigned in 2002. It's their incorporation document, and it links through to Chettlebergs Limited. That again, look at the address, Finsbury Square. That is linked. You've got Temple House as well. That links through to an illegal incorporation, again, where the incorporation document has not been registered and they've put a false name in instead on the register. And you can see from all of this, this isn't a hack of the Companies House system with all this evidence. Now all of this is, as I've said, it's all out in the public domain now. Thank you to everyone that's contacting me. We need to compel the government to change. So we've got JP Morgan secretaries. It's linked to Swift Incorporations Limited. Remember that was on my company, linked to my company. I didn't obviously know about all of this. And that person has not been registered to Swift. So I'm now looking at that same person now within their record, looking at all the companies linked. Can you see they're linked now to Robert Fleming Nominees Limited? So we're going to look at Robert Fleming Nominees. And then that links through to JP Morgan Secretaries UK, as we've seen before. Canary Wharf Address, Bank Street. And now we're looking at that same person, remember we were looking at earlier here. They're linked to JP Morgan Asset Management Holdings UK Limited. They're now in liquidation despite trading since 1988. And you can see they're linked to Mazars. Mazars features frequently throughout. See here, I had a previous company name. So it was JP Morgan Asset Management. It used to be called Robert Fleming Asset Management Limited. And this is the incorporation document for that company. Look at all these company names, all linked through. Let's give you an example of that. Just zoom in. Macmillan. So we know about the Macmillan charity, I believe. I think that's to do with cancer, isn't it? Unfortunately, cancer research is linked through to this. Oh dear. So this is now linked through this company here, incorporated in 1994. You can see previous name Robert Fleming. Overseas. Remember, we've got offshore accounts, money being moved. Appears to offshore accounts. That's what everything suggests is happening. Obviously, offshore means they avoid tax, but it's also a way to move laundered money, criminally obtained money, whether it be through fraud or anything else. Looking at this company now. Which company is it? Sorry, Winchcombe Finance Limited was linked through, incorporated in 1996. I hope this all makes sense doing this. I don't know the best way of doing it, but getting the documents out to you is important as well. So you've got them. Fleming & Co. is linked on the incorporation. Again, you can see. Oh, sorry, lost my way a bit there. There you go. You can see all these Fleming companies linked to the incorporation document of that. Okay, so we're looking through all these links, CAP Limited, back. So we're jumping back and forward. Okay, so these aren't all like, it's not like we're following one chain all the way through. We're following it to a certain point and then getting the evidence, and then we're going back, looking again from the companies. We're back into this company and looking at this person now. Celia Eileen Susan Scott. I'm not saying she's involved in fraud. She might not even be real. 115 companies linked to her. Now we're in Fleming Collection Limited. See, they were incorporated with Swift Incorporations Limited that dissolved in 2023 after I reported the fraud, or despite being trading since 1985. They're linked to Jordan's. FF&P Fund Advisors. Incorporation documents now. It's got an alnary number. So again, this is where they've created and allowed loads of numbers just to be changed to create companies. That's against companies' house guidelines, I believe. Of course, I've gone through all the legal means in terms of reporting to the right people the fraud. There's no point going to solicitors because the legal system, unfortunately, is linked to this system of fraud. That's why they were everyone involved was trying to get me to get a solicitor. And there's going to be a video on that. Oh my goodness, sorry. So back to that company. I'm trying to show you this if it loads up. Allen and Overy. Okay, it's important to show you that. And one new change. Okay, so now we've got linked company. Again, we're in the same person there. Fleming Media Investments, 2008. You've got a Hammer House address. Don't know if you've ever heard of Hammer House of Horrors. I'm not saying that's linked to this specific company, but there are links to paedophilia all the way through this. And what I mean by that is links through to Jeffrey Epstein, Max Clifford, Operation Yewtree, Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell. And as you know from media, if they're true, there's links to paedophilia through those individuals. And this is the incorporation document for that Fleming Media Company. And there's links to James Bond Enterprises. Found that quite interesting. See, Ian Fleming wrote the books for James Bond. Interesting, isn't it? International espionage films and books. And here we are with a reality of that. Quite ironic, isn't it? So now we're linked through. We're going to stop the video in a minute because we've done 31 minutes now. We've got RF Trustee linked through. Again, you can see we're following the evidential links. They're all linked together. Sometimes we go back in and start from another part of the company or another bit of research. And this company changed its name in August 2000. Okay, so from got rid of the Fleming name and put it into something else. And their incorporation document, Southern Investment. Yeah, that's the right name. We've got Linklaters and Paynes, massive solicitors firm on there, and the Solicitors Law Stationery Society. A link to this company is a person, if they're real, with their surname of Fleming. And they link, this is very important, through to BlackRock companies. BlackRock, we'll come on to them and do a bit of research in a minute. They're a massive company. They have a seat at the World Economic Forum with Klaus Schwab and Tony Blair. They apparently, I don't know, I haven't looked into this myself, so I don't know how true this is, but they are apparently doing the rebuilding of Ukraine after the war is resolved. You can see here, Swift Incorporation Limited. Swift Incorporations. Yeah, there we go. Swift Incorporation Limited is on one of the documents. We're going to stop the video there and we'll come back to part 5 in a minute.